Good. All right. So I'm going to play both the role of a moderator and the role of a co-speaker all together. We are shifting different roles right now. But we are going to present a little bit, I would say, the perspective of XRSI Europe on a topic that is not interesting only to XRSI Europe, which is interesting to every citizen here in Europe dealing with new technologies, immersive technologies, and converging tech. You see here the title, Responsible Data Governance Standards, a primer, because we are going to talk about the RDG. You're going to discover more about that in a while. But let me say, we're all representing XRSI Europe here, different roles, but same mission. Very briefly, what is XRSI Europe? It's an NGO based in Europe. It is based in Turin, in Italy, but it's operating across all of the countries of the European Union. Our goal is, of course, to promote the debate and the discussion about digital ethics, privacy, and safety when it comes for virtual worlds and AI. And what we are doing is to promote this discussion through three pillars, which is, first of all, education, I would say awareness of citizens, education, and research. And also this event is part of our initiative here. And I will, of course, start introducing this conversation by highlighting the relevancy of the topic of data and data flows. Because one of the biggest challenges that we are making today, not necessarily us, because many of us are deeply involved also in technology, but this is something that is common also in general non-technical citizens, is that technology is the focus. Is that in many cases the risks are associated to tech, but we just forget that at the core of each technology there are data flows. Every technology, any new iteration of technology, AI, quantum in the future, XR right now, virtual worlds, every single technology is just a way to process underlying data. And how these data are collected, how these data are processed, how these data are managed, how these data are transacted, and also how they are transformed, there lies many of the risks, many of the challenges, many of the influences on our democratic system. I just want to make an example to open the questions also to our speakers. First of all, technology and sensors and data collection is being embedded today in devices that we usually don't associate to technology. For example, the recent glasses, or those smart glasses. 10 years ago, smart glasses were maybe something that was more referred to academia, but now smart glasses can be, you know, the Meta Ray-Ban and the many others, millions of devices used everywhere. And when you look at a person in the streets wearing this kind of glasses, you don't necessarily think that those glasses are monitoring me, collecting data, and saving sensitive information about myself. Why this is important? Because technology today is becoming less perceivable. I would say sometimes invisible, in the sense that there could be so many technological things here, but you don't see them anymore. This, you see that. It's a computer, of course. But many other technologies here maybe are here and they are collecting data you don't see. And my point is, when you don't know technology is scanning you, you behave more naturally. Your intimacy is more exposed. A technology that is less perceivable collects data that are ecologically more valid, without necessarily our consent in many cases. So this creates a completely new kind of domain, a new kind of ecosystem, where people are quantified, but we don't know exactly, of course, how to map these workflows and to ensure our role and our contribution in any debate about this tech, about this this kind of data flows. There is a huge imbalance, no? Huge capabilities of data collection, very low capability, very low awareness by the many sources of data. So I want to start with Luis Bravo Martins, who is VP at XRSI Europe. And Luis, the very first question is, in many cases, people actually want, no, from companies today, especially after decades of Cambridge Analytica and so on, they want to know more about what they do with data. And some companies, they don't necessarily put the priority on that. So what do you think? Just let's start very simple. If a company is not building this trust layer around the data that are collected, what are the risks for the company? The practical one. Even without citing necessarily all of the ethics, no, all of the legal and so on, but what could be the challenges for a company?
So I would start by saying that today we are much more aware of the cybersecurity risks organizations and individuals are prone to than we were 10 years ago. So of course, today, if you talk to any CISO, any CIO, the focus is we need to have something that works across the organization. We can't have something that opens a hole into this otherwise well-crafted network that we're setting up. So this is really, really important to start with. So knowing what data is being brought into, knowing the ownership, the source of that data, knowing the roles of everyone who is dealing with that data, all of that becomes very, very important when you're setting up a cybersecurity policy. And even on top of that, when you're setting up a cybersecurity policy in an environment or a system where you have immersive tech, converging with AI, converging with blockchain, converging with IoT, converging with robots, converging with at whatever emerging tech, right? So I would say that that's like the very first benefit. The second one, well, you said legal, aside from the legal part, but at the same time, there are several contexts where abiding to standards and abiding to regulation is not an option. So you really need to, and especially when we're talking about industrial, automotive, aerospace, standards are like very, very visible across the whole supply chain. So it's also very important for us to be aware that, again, data governance and and knowing exactly what and identifying what is being brought in information-wise inside this cycle means to the overall organization. I would say finally that today, fortunately enough, we have a different kind of user rising up, more informed, more conscious about its data sharing capacities and possibilities. A user that starts to qualify and starts to, I would say, value, appreciate his own data, his personal data, and that is at this point also creating expectations towards that data that goes beyond just, oh, give me a personalized experience. At the same time, it's very, very visible for right now for users that we do have a surveillance economy, that that surveillance is right now in practice, and that we are providing data to 4 of the top 10 companies in the world, and therefore what we're getting back is always pretty much the same, and more people and users, I think, are becoming more and more demanding, again, and this is very much visible in more specific markets, like, for instance, specific markets in retail, like fashion, or, for instance, in more technical markets, again, industrial. So I would say there are a lot of very different reasons why today data is on, like, the number one position on the lists, on the to-do lists and care list of a CISO. But I also, let me just share also this one. I also do believe that it's really important policy-wise for other organizations that are mostly focused on policy also to address this topic, because again, Europe has not sailed, let's say, at the same speed as other markets where personal and private data is shared without, let's say, less or no constraints. So it's also maybe, this creates, I guess, also an opportunity for us to maybe like turn this seeming flaw or seeming lag, maybe turn this into a competitive advantage. And I do believe that this can be done. So just a big challenge also.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Do you want to add anything on this? On the side of companies, not...
On the side of companies, I think what needs to happen is we have a weird, bizarre relationship with data, where in real life we're literally closing the door and ensuring that the door is closed and the room and the window is...
Sorry.
And the window is also closed, but when it comes to our relationship with data and also talking about emerging new risks and potentially new harms that are not yet, there's a huge gap when it comes to legislation that applies to the AI Act, the Digital Rights Act, when it comes to XR and various debates. So there's also not legislation on a pedestal that covers it yet, and that has been used. So also shifting the conversation on how do we ensure that we have a different relationship with data moving forward of constant data capture, where we are literally not leaving the key on the mat. Mm-hmm. So it depends. It depends between, and also engaging the users so they become actually part of the product itself, because we are also crossing at a time where you have user-generated content. So they're not a pure consumer anymore. They become part of your product. So you can also make use of that.
Yeah, also we should remember something important, which is new generations, they are more aware when it comes to data. It's not unusual to speak with a generation alpha, with the little trolls that are growing. They're going to become consumers in the future. And they say, look, I'm not subscribing to any social media because I don't want to offer my attention or my attention data. Sometimes they say like this to companies. And this is a very nice kind of approach, honestly, that requires from companies that are legitimate part of the economical system to build their businesses in a way that is able to fulfill the trust needs of this new generation of customers. So beyond policies, because whenever we talk about data, we really start with policy, but probably it's not the main and then the first point to start with, because it makes it so bureaucratic. We need to remember that today, consumers, the customers, they want to know how the data are going to be used. The trust layer is an opportunity for both the customers to know better a little bit what they are doing on the market, but also for the organizations to grow a little bit more, I would say, to build better loyalty relationship with the customers. So, Alina, another topic, because I know that whenever you hear we need to involve the humans in the loop, no, is probably something that became a little bit obsolete. You are familiar with that, no? Human in the loop whenever, AI, a human in the loop. We are all human in the loop, but unfortunately we are feeling really a little bit betrayed by the system. Yes, so what do you think about that?
I mean, I think we need to step beyond, especially when you come from the European grants. I know the new buzzword, I think, that emerged within Horizon Europe is human-centered design. I think we all know this in this room, and everybody who is now here, I appreciate you guys are here. You care about ethics and values, and I think we don't need to preach it to you.
Maybe not.
Guys,
do you
maybe
care about ethics?
Outside. But I mean, there needs to be a shift. I mean, because if you look at the pure ISO standard of human-centered design, it's pretty static. It mainly focuses on usability, which doesn't really require with technologies that are part of already of every aspect of our lives. So it's not super static, because if you just let tag drop human-centered, it feels stiff, static, but we are dealing with context-based technology, which is not static per se. So I actually like to shift that narrative in a sense that it becomes human-driven. So by actively actually engaging the user, since you as a user become part of it. So you are part from ideation. You then also build a relationship with the potential product, so that hence it's good for the company, but also for the user, because the company can more easily shift when there are user behavior or other shifts. They can more actively navigate like a small sailing boat rather than having a big tanker ship, which we are often dealing with. So.
And regarding this shift, what do you think? Also, this is a question right now to you who are present here. Who is working in the design fields? Who is working by applying this kind of principles? Do you connect with what Alina was saying? Or yes, no, why? Do you want to add something?
Does anyone want to add?
Yes, absolutely. We can bring boys.
Open this discussion up, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's not going to be a monologue.
But maybe we can do another round. Oh,
Absolutely.
I see someone pioneering the microphone, please.
So I'm from an academic institution rather than from a company myself, but my role at the university, is to bring researchers in AI and inclusive design together with companies and user groups to go on kind of sprint-based challenge projects that absolutely try and break that kind of static design attitude and build things which are flexible with people. And also from my background as a participatory arts specialist, I also appreciate the power that having audiences involved along the way can give any creator of a product or experience.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you.
They are all mutual speakers, I think, here.
Hi, so I'm also from academia, but from a research institute focused on concert studies and how people enjoy music and stuff like that. And their ecological environment is extremely important. And forever, it was ideal to have an invisible lab, like to be able to measure people without people notice that they are being measured, so that they are like feeling completely natural and behave in that way. And now with all those variables, some companies get it for free somehow. So it's an enormous potential in the data, and also I think that users pay much more to those companies that they are aware currently.
Yeah. I was just thinking, how many times people speak about very strictly emotional things to Amazon Alexa? I don't know. It's how many people will be speaking about very intimate things while wearing a glass, which is a window on a very deep, intimate areas of our life that now are open, actually, of course.
Yes.
Thanks a lot, Luis.
Absolutely.
Well, actually, we want to follow up this exactly with a question also to Luis, which is about one of the topics of our panel, which is, okay, we were talking about data privacy, about data flows, so we understood that we need to map them. Okay, but what does it mean in practice? What could be the very first step, not to move in practice from the conceptual need to something that companies can potentially embrace to build this trust layer, which is actually the RDG developed by the XRSI, the global XRSI, the one base, I would say, in San Francisco, because we are a part of the global XRSI, but Actually, we founded our European iteration 2 years ago because we understood, well, to build really on this mission, we need to build a community that is really European-focused, discussing with the European ecosystem on European level. But it doesn't mean that we are separated from the global one, because the mission is more than ever global and shared across all of the populations. Luis.
No, absolutely. So before jumping into RDG, let me just share a thought, because I'm a father of an 11-year-old who is still, well, of course, he has me as a father, so he's mindful of the data that he's sharing, but more than that, he is also mindful of his ability of using specific software. And for a fact, I can share with you that I am a father of an 11-year-old that says that he does not want to use social media. So, and he's not the only one. So this, first of all, came across as weird. But then I realized, oh, and another thing, they really enjoyed being together, because that's what he said. But then I realized what being together means in his head, because he comes home around 6 a.m., sorry, 6 p.m. And he comes home around 6 p.m. I bring him from school, and he asks me for half an hour before going to study, just to hop in on Roblox to talk with his friends and schedule things for school for the next day. And then in school, he schedules things for Roblox during the weekend. So this is very fluid. And although he is aware of some of the data that is being shared across all of this, he's not aware, of course, of everything that is happening on the backstage, all the sharing, the data that is being shared across platforms, the data that is being inferred from the data that he is sharing. So all of that is something that I believe will most possibly be needed for the coming generations and for him. And this is shared that I firmly believe that we do need to have more data literacy. That's it. So regarding RDG, so RDG, as Valentino shared, it's a framework to set up a responsible data governance system inside an organization. So it's very, very interesting in the sense that XRSI kicked this effort in June this year, yeah. And since then, it has been working with several organizations, both public and private, in order to establish this system. So I have some notes regarding this one, but overall we're talking about establishing fair principles and essentially allowing for a system owner to pretty much identify, track and qualify not just the data flows, but the data sources, the data owners, and also the roles of the several stakeholders that are going to interact with that data. So all of that influences the way that data is going to, or the value of data across the value chain of an organization. So it has 7 strategic goals. So the first one is to highlight the whole data lifecycle management. So from the creation of data to its deletion. The second part, create a role-based accountability model. So in the sense that besides assigning clear responsibilities for the several different roles, it also includes a set of rules, or one of these systems needs to establish rules of access and enforcement to make sure that the roles are being respected. Then the third one regards process standardization. The fourth one, third-party data governance, and this is very important, especially in a world where selling data is across continents, across countries, is somehow a non-regulated, I'd say. Automated decision-making and the use of AI systems is key, especially if we're talking about systems that relate directly with the user. So if they are customer-facing, if they are user-facing, so how are they going to be managed? The sixth one is alignment with regulatory compliance, which we do have in the European Union. And finally, continuous improvement with well, data governance KPIs, with self-audits that enable for the system to keep on evolving. So this enables for a CIO or CISO to have a complete notion of how these emerging tech, data is moving across the several parts of their system, but this becomes even more important when we're talking about XR data, because then the formats are different, then the kind of data and inferences that come from XR data, especially biometric data, is also very important, and definitely by being very different, it's really important for now for us to identify and for organizations to identify it. I would just finalize by doing a quick highlight of this project, or sorry, of this white paper that was published by XRSI Global on Cityverse. So applying the RDG system to Cityverse and to cognitive cities as they are understood inside.
Are you actually familiar with Cityverse?
Public administration services, sorry. So you can definitely search and find a better definition for it than the one that I'm about to share. But we're talking about this network of local digital twins of cities that is being set up across the European Union. And right now we're moving into stage 2 of that project. And for that project enables several cities and municipalities to leverage the same, let's say, app store of services in order to apply them across the European space with in a way that enables better simulation of new services, of situations, and at the same time also enables full-on new services to be available for the citizen. But also the white paper also helps. Please.
I was just wondering, in this project, how do you address, you're talking about different European cities, which means not only different languages, but also different mentalities and different culture. Is it being considered?
Oh, perfect. Because I was just...
So the Cityverse project is actually a part of a broader vision and mission of the European Commission. I think it emerged due to the emerging issue of fragmentation of digitalization between local digital twin projects. So what we are dealing currently in Europe is we have a fragmentation of digitalization. So you have small villages that are just starting to grasp it. Then you already have, especially the areas or the projects that are under the European 100 cities that are already at the cusp, that are top-notched, often cloud edge city projects that are already at the cusp of it, and there is starting to be on a data level, on an interoperability level, a fragmentation between knowledge that they are not interconnected. So it's this sort of effort to bridge that gap from a knowledge point of view. That's cities, for instance, that are more in the south of Europe, or smaller villages that can learn from these projects that are already established. Like, for instance, I would say one example is actually Rotterdam. They already have a full-on digital twin across land. The harbor is already sort of also quite established also when it comes to blockchain, using that type of technology, but also below the surface. So even for this, for the whole risk infrastructure, gas pipelines, water pipes, how many constructions, edge amount of water pipes are still getting damaged. So it's also a matter of linking them from an interoperable perspective of data exchange between cities of Europe, but also from a knowledge level, because there are cities that are just starting. So it's part of a broader vision and mission beyond 2030, actually.
Maybe.
But there are, if you go to the EU Commission, there are papers out of it.
Yeah, there's also another one about RDG, specifically regarding the AI, the services that I told you about. So and maybe answering also your question, they're not just double-click, plug and play. So there's some needs also always to like implement it. But overall, the fact that I see this vision of leveraging one development towards the benefit of all the members as something that we could replicate in several other areas, and sometimes we don't. So that, circling back to RDG, there's actually a paper just focused on how responsible data governance is really important in these kind of contexts. And again, it's available on XRSI global website, so you are more than welcome afterwards to address it and download it.
Absolutely. First of all, before proceeding, do you have questions about this, about the RDG as a tool that I would say represents the practical step forward from just the concern? Anybody here, like CIO or people who apply data mapping within organizations? Yes, no? No. What is your main concern when it comes to data in your activities? Please. I can move.
I'm going there.
Thanks.
Please.
Yes, so I work for IT department for Norwegian hospital region. And one of our main issues now when we're implementing VR, especially for patients, is data leakage, basically. Because all the major headset companies with their platforms are stealing our data.
Absolutely.
And it's biometric data and it's sensitive data. If you ask them, they say the data is not biometric per definition, which it is, because you can identify a diagnosis of a patient, who the patient actually is, just by all the sensors in the VR headsets. So, I mean, do you see this changing with your type of framework? Or
no, absolutely. In the sense, the aspect is this. You say, we have concerns, we are scared on how data are managed by vendors and so on in the specific domain also of healthcare. The biggest problem in that case is that you don't have necessarily the tool to map exactly what is happening in the backend. Okay, because we can intuitively say that, but you need something more objective, a tool or a framework to analyze and map the entire data flow in a standardized way so that any potential bottleneck, any potential issue, any potential criticality can be something that you can share in a standardized way, also with your colleagues, with other partners, with commercial collaborators and so on. So it's the step to move from just the fear to a map that anybody can discuss together, is to find a consensus. Because around fear, anybody can just find a lot of gut feeling, no? But we need standards, and we are going to talk also about this also with Aline in a while. We need standardized ways to map these criticalities, because otherwise there is no consensus, even to evaluate the severity of the problem or not. Is it very critical, that problem, or not? In this field, makes more sense or not? Of course, in the healthcare field, absolutely. I would say, not only in healthcare, think about HR. Many HR companies using VR to potentially onboard people in the job market. Many consulting companies, the big four. So what about their having access to sensitive data about not only the cognitive conditions right now, but also the potential future cognitive conditions? Because this can be inferred from just navigation data that is used during the onboarding. So for sure, this is absolutely, actually, if you visit also the RDG website, you will find that this is a multi-sector kind of framework. Any different sector can benefit from that, because we all need consensus around it. We need to really move from gut feeling to a little bit of standard. Anybody else? Any other feedback, concern, existential doubt?
I have a question.
Nick?
So there are companies right now, especially the companies that are operating in the AI space,
Yeah.
that started applying AI in order to evaluate the performance of their employees.
Yeah.
I was talking yesterday to my best friend who works for one of the companies that has one of the flagship AI models. And he told me that AI now is analyzing all your meetings, so creating resumes, is analyzing all your calendar, so it's seeing how busy you are and all the meetings that you're having, and is analyzing the emails that you're having compared to your calendar to provide a performance review. No human in the loop.
Yeah.
The performance is sent directly to your manager to evaluate you against your bonuses and, performance score. And when he was telling me that, I was having shivers on my back. Because this is way more than the Big Brother. This is Big Brother on steroids. This is something that is gonna, get people to start putting fake meetings into their calendars and start sending emails about productivity just for the sake of not being evaluated as a poor performer in a company. Well, there are, if you're like me that tries to optimize the timing spent on useless meeting and useless emails and prefers to have very fast burst of conversation using the phone instead of writing tons and tons of emails every time, I would be cooked in a company like that.
Totally.
Okay? So how can we ensure that this data is not misused in this kind of way in the world we're living? And the question is for all of you, of course.
Yeah, it's a super big question with no immediate, I would say, answer. It's not about data in this case. It's really about the workflow in which AI has been included within the company. It's about in the due diligence that was made on the tool. It's what about the due diligence on the training data that were used, of course, to create a system. And it is about the constant monitoring of the system. But if there is no oversight, if there is no constant monitoring, we know that, especially AI today, especially when it comes to AI, generative AI, the performance changes in time. Yeah. There is drift. There is statistic, of course, variability. So this, of course, creates a lot of critical issues. Removing the oversight of human, it's, it's a direct phone number to a lot of problems, I would say.
Actually, let me just step out. Actually, I would just add that you just presented a great example how a solution can be human-centered, but not human-first.
Absolutely.
Because it's very, very focused on around the human itself, and supposedly to allow him to become, to assess his performance, and then afterwards to, in the most positive way for sure, try and enhance his performance afterwards. But the way that it's deployed, it's not at all human first, and that's just one of so many out there. So yeah, clearly, thanks for that, Nick.
Small bump.
But please go.
Final question, also to Alina, about what do you think about the legal system right now? Just a small question. What about the current legal system in Europe? When it comes to the data transparency, especially in the age of converging tech of XR plus AI. What do you think still needs to be done? What still needs to be catched up? Because this convergence is still not part of the legislation system.
No, it's not, and especially from recently being at the closing event from XR for Human. I mean, we've done a legal gap analysis on how XR can be applied with all the current existing legislation, and there is a huge gray area. When you look at legislation now, I think from a pure AI Act part, where obviously XR is not part of it purely, I would argue there's an issue in the sense that legislators and policymakers are looking at technology purely in isolation, which is an issue. To address this also in the grasp of BCI, I mean with the Meta wristbands, it's currently mainly for navigation, but also if you look at human rights purely, the right to your own thought is not part of the human rights. So it starts with navigation, but they are already capturing pure EEG data. So that's another, and it's currently not on the radar. I know firsthand that they are currently looking into BCI, but if you approach it again, pure tech in isolation, where we as our XR people who know that XR is visualizing AI, we should be concerned, because if we want policymakers to care, we need to link it to the AI Act. Future legislation will emerge from the AI Act. And how to address this, I've been thinking of the legacy also from the project now that we are closing. It's only, I think, we as Europeans, we need to join forces and then just literally directly approach the Commission. Because I think they're not aware of this, but they also don't really care, to be honest.
Thank you.
It's not a real answer.
Yeah,
Because I don't
it's a lot of
yet.
questions. All right, so any final remarks also, you, Luis, about the topics? Anything that you would like to add?
No, I would say at this time, much more than just regulation. Because the whole ecosystem is going to keep on becoming more and more complex. More converging technologies are going to connect with XR, and at the end, regulation that we're going to set up is not. It's going to be obsolete in 1 year, and then 6 months, and then 3 months, and then it's just not. We will be failing ourselves in just believing that regulation is going to sort it out. And by regulation, mind you, I'm not just talking about laws. I'm also talking about the standards that we are creating, because they need to be resilient, sure, but at the same time, the way that we're going to apply them needs also to be like in line with the specific challenges that keep on moving. They are moving parts. What I do believe is that more and more we have to bring in the individual, us, to the topic, and that's why I truly believe that it's really important for us to start discussing data ownership as a whole, not just data sovereignty, but how we can bring up individual data ownership to the discussion level, to our level, and allow us to again own our behavioral, our personal data, and be also a part of this new data economy that is out there. If AI is going to take jobs, maybe this is a way for us to build new jobs, and maybe this is a way for us to become much more conscious and data literates than we are right now. So I would say at this point that would be my final remark for us to try and push for a data ownership context where individuals can also become a part of this economy.
All right, thank you. A question?
Well, that's pretty much why I'm here. No, because, you know, this is really quick, sorry. It's one of the major things, because I keep on hearing, oh, but yeah, data surveillance, capitalism, and things are happening, and this is so bad, and think, hey, we're here, we can do stuff, we can work together, we are here to build, and you, Ben, are going to be part of the next panel. I really hope that we have a follow-up on this, because I do believe that everyone who is building today our experiences and our next web is able to contribute positively in making this actually work for us. Because at the end, that's our purpose, right? And I still firmly believe that we do have the power to leverage this. So, yeah, but that was my final thought.
2 more questions before closing, very short one.
Yeah, just have you ever considered to make a platform for donating data? So one idea for lowering the value of the data and keeping these data wars alive is to give them for free to everyone, like not to Meta, not to Google, like donating your data to some platform.
Creative Commons for data?
I mean, I've been part of projects working on open source decentralized software, one being a fully pure open source VPS, which doesn't exist up until now. Because due to proprietary systems, and they are also not being interoperable, you know, but we don't need. So they exist, but apparently the marketing and, I mean, NGI, the NGI funding program, which is literally a program within the Commission, actually pushing open source decentralized software. I think Mastodon is a great example for that. But apparently, and this is also across where I've been also nagging heads with the Commission, is you have all these projects funding open source software, but you're not even using it. You're also using Teams. So, and they don't have the marketing board of this. So the projects exist, but apparently nobody knows about these projects, and also nobody's using it because open source community, they are a bit weird. They are not outspoken. They just do it for the sake of there needs to be an alternative. Yeah, so I think there are people here today. You should talk to them.
I know one super short.
Yep.
But they exist.
You've mentioned challenges that are pretty straightforward, but also some that are not on the radar yet, like the right to your own thoughts. Are you aware of any legislation from different regions that are maybe tackling these or are a little bit more proactive in challenging these?
No.
Say from Asia, Americas, or something that could
So I'm happy to share with you the legal gap analysis that we've done, because it's been not done that thoroughly. It's literally the full paper is 150 pages. It's covering all. And there are some activities, we've done the mapping. There are some activities in South Korea, actually governmental, also when it comes to ethics. It's currently not applied yet, but it looks promising. There are activities out there. Also, what we've done with the mapping and also in the ethics work package in regarding to new and emerging risks, we've actually done a topology of risks as well. When you do the mapping, it's quite interesting because currently you're completely gapping out, I would say, the global south. We all know there's activity in South America and also Africa. If you cover ethics for him here, it's something that we actually submitted to Kai, so if you're interested in that debate, when you talk to people actually in different cultures, especially the global south, when you then talk to them in regards to ethics, yeah, but it feels a bit like colonization 2.0, because we apply our Western understanding and values of ethics, which might not apply to these cultures. So I think we need to have these debates a bit more, because those are also the discussion that I'm interested. They are a bit more controversial, and most people don't actually like to have these talks, but I think we need to, as a group of people, if we want to make the future better, I think.
All right, here we are. Once again, thank you everyone for joining this session. Thank you to our speakers.
Thank you so much, Valentino. Thank you so much, Alina.